they basically announced that Sasha Banks is going to appear at Wrestle Kingdom 17. There was, a lot of kind of wondering like exactly how that'll be done. I guess that remains to be seen. Like as far as like what this could be just her walking out as a challenger. It could be her having some type of short match, like kind of like like an exhibition win before the women's match happens, and then kind of she calls her shot. That's kind of like the remember Wrestle Kingdom 17 how they had Cody and Juice Robinson where it was kind of like a short dominant like match or whatever.
13,
I think it was 11. So
11. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I don't. This lines up with all the stuff of her not taking bookings until January 1st. She's been trademarking Up a Storm, Mercedes Moné, a couple different other things. And I actually listened to some of our old stuff where we were covering Sasha and her departure from WWE. And I just got to say, man, the level of cope that I've saw on this timeline already. We haven't even she hasn't even debuted yet, James. They've lost their minds already. I already put somebody on the Summer Jam screen to the tune of 2,400 likes on Twitter for switching up the game on some ludicrous shit. And it's a lot of copium, a lot of denial, a lot of people that are going to struggle to explain this stuff. And I feel like, I feel like this is a column I'm going to write, but I don't know how to tell y'all, but Sasha Banks has been leaving WWE for years. Like, this was always what she wanted to do back in 2019. Like, she was trying to get out of there. And then she came back, under more promises. And it's like, I don't understand why people think that, every big event that would go by, they'd be like, oh yeah, Sasha, this is gonna be the one. She's coming back. People talk themselves into it, and she's wired different than a lot of these folks. And I've seen people make the comments like she did the interview with Stone Cold. She essentially laid out the whole thing. We already have made the case of how they've never really valued her, and it's thinking about WWE. I don't think WWE is ever going to pay her as a top star because they've never seen her as a top star, despite, basically being essentially like doing actually the one that's moving numbers, like, like with the Roman stuff. And you could point at Sasha clearly being one that's moved numbers and not necessarily, in his case, but it is always strange how they've treated her. I've lamented the days of her having to put over Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, how she got moved out the way for Ronda Rousey this year. And I think we should probably remind everyone, because I think they seem to struggle about how exactly this departure exactly happened and the circumstances around it. Like, this woman was set to wrestle Charlotte for the championship by all accounts before Ronda Rousey shows up. Rousey shows up. They move her out the way. People that have talked,
and like, when she's supposed to go into the Rumble too,
presumably.
Presumably, yeah.
People have talked themselves into thinking like Sasha Banks and Naomi's like this long time, like they're this duo, this package deal. It is not like that. Like, and like these two are like their own separate cases, I feel like. And I think
they haven't been they're not some long time act. Like, they've been an act before when they were Team Bad in 2015, but like they're friends, whatever, but they're not like, it's not like it's Bayley and Sasha,
right?
For example, that they would make you think of it that way,
right? People seem to forget these two were thrown together to pacify Sasha, to win that, to give him a championship. Be like, hey, we know we couldn't let you, we had to take this from you, so we're gonna go ahead and give you this championship, and we'll let you do something with it, whatever, And it was after that, the promises were not kept, and they were continued to being used as the, how they use the women's titles. They're basically stepping stones for the singles belts whenever they want to have the champions do all that stuff. And Sasha Banks was like, no, I'm better than this. and Naomi as well. I'm better than this. And I don't know if it even like registers with people like when they call her like ungrateful and all this shit, and it's like, what does she have to be grateful for? Like, like, how did they necessarily treat her so good? And I know people are gonna throw, oh, she main evented WrestleMania. Da 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 da. I'm like, okay, man. They let Kevin Owens main event one of those on accident, like this year. Like, does that really change anything? Like, did I like Sasha and Bianca? I sure did. Were there 2 nights of WrestleMania? Yes. Would have ever main evented WrestleMania in a normal year where there was 1 WrestleMania? Fuck no. Like, we don't have to pretend. We don't have to lie. We don't have to cap. Like, and I'm not even going to get into her usage over the years as far as, like, her not being able to defend the titles and shit. And, like, her being like the greatest women's wrestler this country's ever produced, and she was essentially Charlotte Flair built her legend on Sasha Banks' back, and there's a lot, man. There's a lot, and then the for the people to only want her to stay there to deal with that claim she's your favorite wrestler or you're stand for her. You're fucking ridiculous. Like, I can't believe that you will want her to stay in those positions. Why? Because you don't really like Sasha Banks. You just like WWE. Stop the fucking cap. James, all yours, man.
I mean, there's so much to it. Like, in my mind, I'm just going over the stuff you just laid out and thinking about how, like, yeah, she did end up getting being given a run with Naomi for the women's tag titles, which like then invokes like the 2019 time when she left over those same tag titles. And it brings me back to the point where you were saying about how like people want her to just be grateful, and like that's problematic in and of itself. That you're just telling a black woman, no less, to like just be grateful for any little bit you got.
Just
right?
Enjoy it. That's the same energy.
Yeah. And we'll get to that too, I guess. But it's been a long road of like disgruntlement, and I don't know if that's a word, but like just like frustration with her. Eventually I'm sure, if this actually comes to fruition, there will be the big tell-all podcast on, with Renee or Jericho, where like, I might stay up in anticipation for that one. But until we get it, we'll just wait on that. But there's so many things we've heard about frustration that are from that have like boiled over to the forefront in ways that like things that like we didn't even hear about with Dean Ambrose, right? / John Moxley. And then we got that podcast, and we were like, oh, he's hated every single thing that we've hated about his last 6 months in the company. He wants to fuck out too. So I get it. So imagine what we're going to get potentially with Sasha stuff, the stuff we do know, where it's like they have yoked her around. Like you look at WrestleMania 32, she didn't win. It made no sense for Charlotte to win at the time, but she won because reasons. The getting to 2019 with the women's tag titles, where like they won them at Elimination Chamber, I believe, right?
Yes, and
then they lost them.
They pulled those shits out of nowhere, like in like a month.
Yeah, and then they lose them, immediately, and that sent her off a cliff, or sent her away because she was in frustration. Then she came back, and she came back and immediately was like putting in like the hottest feud in the company at the time with her and Becky, and they had an amazing set of matches, especially the Hell in a Cell match, one of the better matches in the main roster that year, one of the very best. So yeah, moving forward from that, like 2020, they let her do some cool things. Like I'm sure she always wanted to wrestle Io, and then she was able to do that. She was able to wrestle the Kabuki Warrior program or whatever else. And then get to the Sasha and Bailey thing that like they had obviously wanted to do since 2018, but like Vince kept dragging his feet on it for forever, and then dragged his feet to a way to where it's like now there's no crowd. Thanks, awesome. So I'm sure that'll be listed as reason for frustration. And then as you just mentioned, like all indications were that she was going to win the Rumble unless Ronda was coming out, and then Ronda comes out and she's moved aside again. And there were talks of she was asking, or her asking price to return to WWE was something that would have upset their books as far as like roster salary, as far as it's the most they've ever paid, or like the most they've ever paid for a woman or something along those lines. And
I got my thoughts on that. I personally, I don't really think it's about the money for Sasha. Like I think it's about the push, and then the money is the insurance, where she figures that if you pay me a certain level, you can't push me out the way anymore.
Yeah,
that's just my read on it. I don't.
That's definitely There's definitely something.
Info on
there's
that.
definitely something to that. There's also like, I'm gonna give you. There's also like, I know they're not going to do this, but like, I'll throw out a number that is so high to where it's FU money from her perspective. That it's like, I made my point. If I get you to bend the knee and call me back, or call my lawyer and say okay, right? There's part of that as well. So yeah, I think that she's been done with WWE, or was prepared to check out and move on. And like, you see some of the things she's doing. She's shooting for a movie. I think she's working towards a life post wrestling. But while like she has this opportunity, it looks like she's trying to see what she can do outside of WWE to keep herself like at a high level as far as an asking price. Similar to what we've seen with people like Cody, people we've seen like Rey Mysterio. And I think that she loves her fans. I think that like similar thing to Moxley. Like, it's not by forever. Like, I think that Moxley will eventually one day show up to do the induction for the Shield and for Dean Ambrose and all that kind of stuff for WWE. Do I think he'll ever wrestle for them? No. But like, as far as the stuff for the fans and all that kind of stuff, I think he'll do that. For the WWE fans, the sports entertainment enthusiasts. Yeah, so I think he'll do all that stuff. I think Sasha will be the same way. So yeah, like I think that this sets the stage for her potentially to like have, an incredible run. You've always been a bigger fan of Sasha than me. But like, as far as like your correct take that like she's the best women's in-ring performer that like this country's ever produced. Yeah. And I have always thought of like, even when we did the last year, the Sasha Orth game, whatever, it was always like, can you imagine if a horsewoman, or if Asuka, or if Io were to come back, or Kyrie, for example, just recently, like they were to come back and like wrestle this just the loaded roster that is Stardom, and see what they could do. And like it looks like we have a realistic shot of seeing it, and I'm like excited for that, because like it's Sasha against opponents she's never wrestled before, and like they're over time eventually they will make her wrestle up to their level. And you got to think, in WWE, obviously she's had some incredible matches, right? But like, what it is with the pacing, what it is with the the certain rules that they have for women's wrestlers, as far as violence, whatever else.
I saw someone calling for a Momo Watanabe match, and I was like, man, the stands are gonna want Momo Watanabe arrested when that foot strikes with that chest.
But the thing is, if she's signing up to wrestle Stardom wrestlers in New Japan, she knows what she's getting herself into. Doesn't mean it is going to hurt any less, but like, she has agreed to the hyperviolence, if you will. So like, that was a thing for me. When Kyrie first came back, was like first weekend back, like, she ruptures her eardrum, she does a shoot headbutt, and like it felt like she was back. But like, as far as like wrestling to the level of the top of the promotion, she didn't really do that until the Gold Rush historic crossover weekend, and like that was one of my favorite weekends of wrestling, to see her to reach back and be like, all the stuff you saw on video, like it ain't just lost forever and whatever else. Because I went to WWE and I shut my brain off on wrestling. Like it took me, it took her a while to get her sea legs, if you will, pun intended, there. And like that's the thing that excites me for Sasha, to see like what is it like when like the swag is totally unlocked, like, and she can do everything that they told her, or so many things that they told her at times. Nah, don't do that. And so that's what really excites me. And then like she has the roster that's like, you want to do that? Okay, we did something like that, about 5 months ago. We can do that again, like something the same to her in her mind. Like I think that like this is very it changes all the directions of things you can do in the ring. So I'm really excited for that, and see like what the possibilities are now that like the limiter's off.
So we got a new report today with her from Voice of Wrestling, Joe Lanza. Make sure you guys check it out, Patreon. Basically, I'm not going to read it word for word here, but he said essentially the Sasha and Bushi Road negotiations started, right after she walked out on WWE. Rossi basically
tampering
came out here.
No, stop. Let's stop right there. Sorry, Rich. Tampering. That's tampering. Like, I understand different country, they're not going to go after and pursue it or else. But like when people talk about AEW and WWE and all and whatever else, so like I'm not saying that necessarily like Rossi like DM'd her on Twitter or had Sonny DM Sasha on Twitter, but it's like obviously like somebody said some go between or whatever else to let her know like, hey, if there's a possibility, like let's talk. So like that's tampering. That's tampering, and like it happens everywhere. And like let it happen, let it go. Let's do this.